My beloved child. I see you. You're still sitting in the same room while everyone else seems to have moved on. The walls haven't changed. The pictures still hang where they always have. And the clock on the wall ticks just as it did decades ago. But something feels different. Colder. Emptier. You sit in that familiar chair by the window. The one where you once watched the children play. Where you waited for your spouse to come home. Where life used to pass in beautiful noise. Now the silence is what fills the room. And it feels heavier than any sound ever could. The house used to be full of laughter. Footsteps. Phone calls. Family dinners. And spontaneous hugs. But now, those moments are memories. They come back sometimes. Sure, for holidays. A birthday. Maybe a weekend, but when they leave, the quiet returns like a tide that never forgets to come back. You still pour 2 cups of tea. Out of habit. You still straighten the pillows and prepare their seat. Even though you know no one is coming. You speak out loud just to break the silence. Even if no one responds. You wonder. In the stillness. If anyone notices that you're still here. Still hoping to be seen. I want you to know this, you are not invisible to me. Before they stopped calling. Before they filled their calendars with everything but you. I had already carved your name into the palm of my hand. I saw the love you gave. The sacrifices you made. The strength it took to stay when no one thanked you. I saw the prayers you whispered in the kitchen while washing dishes. The tears you wiped in the hallway when no one was watching. The silent courage it took to keep holding everything together. I was there. I am still there. This room that feels so empty to you? It's not a forgotten place. It's sacred ground. This silence you sit in, it is not a punishment. It is an invitation. An invitation to return to yourself. And more than that, to return to me. What if I've allowed this season not to remove you, but to reveal you? To bring you to a place where all the noise of life is stripped away. So you can hear my voice again? My love for you has never depended on your productivity, your titles, or your usefulness to others. It has always simply been unchanging, eternal, for you. Let me ask you something deeper now. When was the last time you believed you were still chosen? Still precious? Still wanted, not just by people, but by your Creator? That ache in your chest, the one that tightens in the late night hours, what if that isn't emptiness? What if it's space I made just for myself? So I could fill it. So today, don't run from the silence. Sit with me in it. Light a candle. Open your Bible to Psalm 27. Read it not like a book, but like a letter from me to you. Whisper your fears, I already know them. You don't need fancy words. You don't even need to get up. Just be still. I am already with you. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not done. You are not just sitting in a quiet house. You are sitting in a place where my spirit dwells, where healing begins, where memories become altars, and where I can speak again to a heart that finally has space to hear me. And maybe, just maybe, this room isn't where the story ends. Maybe it's where something new begins. My beloved child. They used to need you for everything, and now, they barely have time to answer a text. You once were the center of their world. And now you're not even on their calendar. How did it happen so quietly? No one announced it. No one said, "You're not the anchor anymore." It just shifted. One moment you were the one they ran to for advice, for food, for comfort. And now, you're the one they remember last. You check your phone, scrolling through days with no messages. You replay the voice of your daughter telling you she's too busy to visit. Or the silence of your son who forgets birthdays now. You stand in the kitchen, wondering if you should cook something just in case someone comes by. And you find yourself cleaning the guest room again, not because someone asked, but because a small part of you still hopes. But no one comes. And no one calls. You are surrounded by people in this world. And yet you feel like you've disappeared. But hear me now, you have not disappeared from me. I never removed your name from my story. I never moved you to the background. In fact, I see what they no longer look for. I see the wisdom that years have shaped in you. I see the loyalty you still carry, even when it's not returned. I see the prayers you still whisper on their behalf, even when they forget to say thank you. They may treat you like you've become optional, but in my kingdom, you are essential. You are a pillar. You are my beloved. What if your role was never meant to shrink, only to shift? What if the world's rhythm moved on, but heaven's rhythm is just beginning? What if the stage you think you've been pushed off of is actually the place I've cleared for something sacred to emerge? You are not being retired, you are being repurposed. You are not less important, you are becoming more eternal. So let me ask you this. Why have you allowed a world's forgetfulness to define your identity? Why have you assumed that your value comes from being constantly needed, instead of being deeply known? Why do you believe that just because they stop calling your name, mine no longer echoes it today? Do something holy, take out a pen and write a note, not to them, but to me. Tell me how it feels. Don't hold anything back. Then, write one sentence about who you still want to become. Even now. You don't need to post it. You don't need to frame it. Just offer it. Let your soul speak again. Let your identity rise again, not from what they say, but from what I have always said. And when you're done, look around the room once more, not with disappointment, but with possibility. Because in this silence, I am building something unshakable. You are not out of the story. You are walking into the deeper chapter. Let's keep going. My child. There is more waiting ahead, more than you think, and more than you've dared to hope. My beloved child. Some kinds of loneliness don't come from being alone, they come from lying next to someone who no longer sees you. Or worse, from waking up to a bed that's stayed empty for years. Silence can be peaceful when it's shared. But when it's born from absence, or distance, it echoes through the soul. You still sleep on one side of the bed. Their pillow remains untouched, just like you left it. You try not to disturb the dust, as if movement might erase the last traces of their presence. Or maybe they're still physically present, sitting across the table, watching the same TV, walking the same halls, but they feel galaxies away. Conversations have become logistics. Intimacy has become memory. You speak, but their eyes are somewhere else. You touch, but it no longer feels received. And at night, when the world grows quiet, you ask yourself, is this really what love turns into? But hear me, my dear one, I see the ache you no longer say out loud. I see the grief that doesn't show up in photos or funeral programs, the quiet loss of connection, the slow fading of closeness. I am not just the God who comforts in tragedy. I am the God who whispers into silent marriages and grieving hearts alike. I don't overlook the love you still carry, even if no one receives it anymore. I don't disregard the tears you cry while folding clothes that aren't worn, or sitting beside someone who has forgotten how to reach for your hand. I hold it all, the spoken, the swallowed, the shattered, and the sacred. What if the absence you feel isn't just about who left, but about what I want to restore within you? What if this space in your heart wasn't left by them, but cleared by me, for something eternal, not circumstantial? What if you're not waiting for someone to come back to you, but for me to come closer than ever before? So let me ask you gently, what if you stopped begging others to see you? And let me teach you how I've always held you? What if the longing you feel isn't weakness, but a holy invitation to be filled again? This time with something that cannot be lost or walked away from. Today, bring me your memory. That one memory, the anniversary you replay every year. The moment they stopped talking. The chair that still rocks on the porch. Speak it aloud to me. Say their name, if it helps. Cry if you need to. Then say this, but I know you are still with me. Not because you feel it yet, but because I am. You don't need to pretend you're not hurting. You only need to remember you're not hurting alone. Let this be the night you feel my arms in the silence. Let this be the evening you stop waiting for someone to come back, and start receiving the one who never left. You are not just living with loss. You are walking with me, and I am the resurrection. Even in quiet houses and fading photographs. Now take a breath. Something is healing. And in the healing, something is beginning. My beloved child, I know what you're wondering but never dare to say aloud. What am I still here for? When the days feel long but meaningless. When no one needs a ride, a lunch packed, a prayer whispered at the foot of their bed. When no one leans on you anymore, and you're not sure where to lean yourself. You wake up, but there's no rush, no little feet to chase, no one calling your name from the hallway. You fold the laundry slower now, not because you're tired, but because there's just less to do. You walk into rooms and forget why you came in. You sit with a book in your hands and realize you've read the same paragraph 3 times. Not because it's hard to understand, but because your mind keeps drifting to the question, does my life still matter? Now that no one needs me to hold theirs together, let me speak into that space. I am the God who gave you life, not just once, but again and again. I am the one who created you not only for a season of usefulness, but for a lifetime of relationship. I don't measure your value by your to-do list. I don't assign worth based on who calls you today. You are not valuable because of how many people rely on you. You are valuable because you are mine. My love for you did not decrease when your responsibilities did. In fact, it's in this space, this quiet, uncomfortable open space, that I finally have room to speak again. What if your purpose now is not in doing, but in becoming? What if this season isn't a conclusion, but a reintroduction? A sacred unfolding? You've spent so much of your life being everything for everyone, and now I want to show you what it means to be filled by me, not drained by others. What if your presence, even now, even here, still carries eternal weight? So let me ask you something deeper. When did you begin to believe that usefulness was the same as worth? When did you let the noise of others define your purpose, and silence the one who made you for something far more lasting than tasks and timelines? Today, do something small but sacred. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 people you once carried. Then next to their names, write this: God is still carrying them. And He is still carrying me. Leave it on your nightstand. Let it be a reminder that you were never the Savior, only a vessel. And vessels never lose value in the potter's hands. Lift your eyes. The clock didn't stop. Heaven didn't stop. And neither did your story. You are still here, not by accident, not by default, but by design. And if I've kept you breathing, then I've kept a purpose burning. Let this truth settle into you like morning light through a dusty window. Just because the room is quiet doesn't mean your soul has nothing left to say. You're not done. You're just beginning to hear me clearly. My beloved child, you've spent so long sitting in what feels like the ruins of yesterday, staring at old photos, replaying conversations you wish had ended differently, wondering where all the meaning went. You've grown used to the ache, haven't you? So much so that part of you stopped believing healing was even possible. But what if I told you, the door you thought was closed was never locked? What if this room isn't a tomb, but a threshold? You look around and see dust. I look and see space. Space for beauty to return. Space for you to breathe again. The world you once nurtured may have changed, but it did not strip you of the ability to nurture. That strength is still in your bones. That light is still in your voice. You're still here, and I never kept you here just to survive. I kept you here to witness renewal. Think of the seed. It sits beneath the soil, in darkness, forgotten by most. But in my time, it breaks, and that breaking is the beginning of becoming. That's where you are. Not buried. Beloved. Planted. Let me ask you something brave. What if the most meaningful chapter of your life is the one you've yet to live? What if the person you're becoming now, slower, softer, wiser, is exactly who the world around you needs? You keep asking, what do I do now? But the better question is, what is God stirring in me now? Because I am. And I have never stopped. So today, take a step. A simple one. Walk outside and let the sunlight touch your face. Speak aloud one sentence: I am still alive. And I am still becoming. Then choose one small act of reconnection. Write a note to someone, not to fix the past, but to bless the present. Join the gathering at church even if you don't feel like it. Start that journal you've been putting off. Breathe. Create. Move. Let hope come in the form of motion. You don't need to rebuild your whole world in a day. You just need to open the curtains again. Let the light find you where you are. I am the God who restores what time has worn thin. The one who gives back meaning to ordinary moments. The one who turns mourning into dancing, not by removing the past, but by redeeming it. So don't despise this quiet beginning. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not too old to shine again. You are, in fact, perfectly placed for something new to rise. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, we walk into that new together. My beloved child, do you know what's never changed, even after the silence, the loss, the empty chairs and forgotten calls? I've always been in that room with you. You thought you were alone. You thought the world had moved on and left you behind. But I never moved. I never left. I never looked away. I was there in every sigh you released at the kitchen sink. I was there when you sat at the edge of the bed, wondering what your life still meant. I was in the chair across from you when you whispered, "God, are you still here?" I never missed a moment, even when you couldn't feel me. Even when it hurt too much to hope. Even when your prayers were only tears and your faith was down to a flicker. You may have felt forgotten, but you were always known. You may have felt abandoned, but you were always carried. I did not need a crowd to confirm your value. I only needed your heart to remain open. And now, here you are, not broken, but softened, not invisible, but radiant with a quiet kind of light, not lost, but led by my hand. One day, one breath, one whisper at a time. Let me ask you something eternal. What if all this time I wasn't trying to test you, but to remind you that your identity was never in your roles, your schedule, or how many people needed you, but in the fact that I chose you before time ever began? What if the stillness you feared was the very place I had prepared to pour my presence into you without distraction? So now, my dear one, take this truth and let it settle deep. You are not alone. You never were. The room is not empty. It is sacred. The silence is not the end. It is the invitation. I dwell here, not in the noise, but in the nearness. And today, do something holy. Before you move on to your next task, sit for one more minute. Place your hand over your heart and say aloud, "I am not forgotten. God is still here with me." Then whisper my name, not out of habit, but out of recognition. Not because you must, but because you know now that I'm listening. You've spent so long waiting for someone to come back and make you feel alive again. But beloved, I have always been here, waiting to bring life to you, in you, and through you. You are not just still here, you are still held, still chosen, still loved. So rise from that chair, not because you're leaving the room behind, but because now, you know, you were never sitting alone. The story isn't over, it's just beginning, again, and I am still writing it with you.